Hello there, everybody, and welcome to Sargent Toughie Plays Final Fantasy IV. I know this might seem a little bit random, but, you know, I just figured there are some people that I know that might not see the older Final Fantasy games or may not have a lot of exposure to them, so I figured I'd do a playthrough of a few of them, and I figured I'd start with 4 because 3 is a little bit boring and not very interesting to me, so I'm just gonna go ahead and get started now. And one thing to note is that during cutscenes, I'm not really gonna be talking a whole lot. I might jump in every once in a while, but for the most part, I'm just gonna let the game speak for itself. So I'll be back with you guys in just a moment.
Lord Captain, we're nearly to the Baron border.
So we are.
Trouble's him, too. Orders may be orders, but this goes too far. Lord Captain! We're the Red Wings, the pride of Baron! Must we now be thieves, sent to plunder from the weak?
Enough.
But Lord Captain, the Mysidians offered no resistance, and still we cut them down.
Listen to me. We did no more than what our kingdom's peace and prosperity required us to do. The Mysidians knew too much of the crystal and its secrets. His Majesty deemed it so. We are the Red Wings of Baron. It is not our place to question the orders of our king.
Lord Captain.
Lord Captain! Monsters at the floor!
Okay, so this is our first battle, and while I do this and clean up these Aramon, just a few quick notes to start with. You did notice that I did have a continue file on the main menu. It's because I did play a couple of hours of this game live. I am just starting over because I'm doing a recording session instead. And I just figured it'd make a little bit more sense that way instead of starting where I ended my live session, so that's why you see that. So, this is the beginning of the ATB system here, and we just start with Cecil the Dark Knight, and his only real gimmick right now is that he can activate Darkness mode, in which, he deals substantially more damage, but he also has a progressive dot ticking effect. So, like, you saw how much his damage actually jumped up the moment that I activated Dark Side. So, it definitely had some very practical purposes.
Everyone all right?
Aye. With all these monsters as of late. Disturbing, is it not? I wonder what it bodes. We've reached the castle, my lord.
Well then, prepare for landing, men.
Lord!
Alright, so now we are in Baron Castle. I'm gonna try to... When I said I wasn't gonna talk during cutscenes, I'm mostly gonna try to stay quiet during dialogue-heavy scenes like this too, although... I'm gonna... You know, I'll try to do as is appropriate. Anyway, a little too inside baseball there, I suppose. So this is just Final Fantasy IV. Not a whole lot else to really comment as of yet. Just as the story is developing and we're still in the early game, there's not really that much to say. Other than we're just paying attention to what's going on here with the story, where we're bringing a crystal back to our king here. Okay, so at long last we have control of the game, which is cool. So I'm gonna do a quick rundown of the menus and what we're gonna be doing so far. So you see, this is actually a port of the DS remake of Final Fantasy IV, which is why you see kind of the somewhat crummy, pixelated, no, we definitely don't want to turn down the battle speed. Which is why you see the somewhat kind of awkward, pixelated graphics and stuff. Along with a couple other kind of cool features that we're going to get into a little bit later. But first we're going to... Like, we're still in the early game. We got a little bit further to go before we extract any major gameplay sections here. So we're just going to chat with a few of the NPCs and get a little bit of the lay of the land for what's going on with the castle here. And then I'm going to chat with Kane here, which will give us a little bit more story, so I'm going to shut my mouth for that one too. And so there's that. Cecil and Kane, old sparring partners and friends. I'm not gonna delve into the castle too deeply. I'm gonna poke around for a few kind of hopefully hidden goodies that I might come across, but I'm not gonna try to turn the whole place upside down because that can get really boring, especially when there's not a whole lot going on in this game just yet. The way that I play RPGs, and I said this during the live broadcast, the way I play RPGs can be somewhat boring to spectate, because I tend to be very procedural and grindy, to be honest. I spend a lot of time in an area just kind of grinding for resources or experience and stuff, so I'm not going to do too much of that this time. These guys don't really share too much useful stuff. They basically are just here for a little bit of flavor. So not too much. The other thing is that during those kind of silent cutscenes, I'm not going to really be talking too much because the reason for that is because, in my opinion, just dead silence is preferred over actually reading the dialogue, which is the other kind of common trap, I guess. It's just, I figure everybody watching this is probably grown enough of an adult that they are able to read on their own. So I'm definitely not gonna go too crazy with all that. So we're still kind of roaming here. We're in the engineer section. Anyway, I'm gonna go proceed with the story, assuming I can find my way about. So okay, so we're still just doing a little bit of exploring. There's nothing really to get here. I just figured I'd take a look around because there might be a thing or two lying around, and after we leave Baron Castle, we won't be back for quite a bit of time, so it doesn't hurt to be thorough. Plus, it also actually gives me time to talk and explain a few things while I go to progress the story, because this is a very story-heavy section that we're in, without a whole lot of opportunities for me to really do a lot of talking, so it's not too bad, though. And then, of course, because I don't think it needs to be said, if you have any feedback or comments or concerns, I am playing this for a very small viewer base, so you can just leave the comments or, you know, let me know directly via whatever communication means I have with you, and, you know, I will make changes and implementations based on how this turns out. It is, I'm definitely going to try to improve the more I do recordings and as I go through other Final Fantasy games, because I'm going to be doing more than just 4. I do want to do a bare minimum of 4 and 5, especially with a few of the developments that happened recently. I think that a little bit of exposure to 5 would be behooving of a lot of people, because we're going to be getting a lot of that in the next 14 expansion packs, so that'll be very exciting, and that'll be it. But I am definitely also going to look to be covering other FF games as well. We're gonna poke our head in here real quick. Basically just gives us the idea that none of the Red Wings are really feeling super fantastic about what happened in Mysidia. So, yeah, they basically just went and slaughtered a bunch of mages, which is fairly obvious considering we got shown that directly. And here we meet one of the actual changes that they're making in the DS version, which is, this little dude's name is Naming Way, as he's about to tell you. And his whole gimmick is that he helps you rename your characters, but I'm not really gonna make use of that, so he's gonna kind of go on his own little life journey. And no, just accept Cecil's a fine name. So he's gonna go do his own thing, and we'll see him throughout the game, so don't worry too much about Naming Way. Oh, so yeah, sorry for startling you there, I actually forgot about that. This is how you pull up the map. In the DS version, this is actually your bottom screen, so it's always up and it's always live, but I do like how they kind of brought it over in this game, how it's kind of like a transparent overlay. They could have done it like a mini-map in the corner instead, and that would have been good as well, but I'm gonna be keeping that up most of the time once we're actually dungeoneering and exploring and stuff. Anyway, up into Cecil's bed chamber here, and we're gonna poke around, see if there's anything of note. I guess not. And on with the story.
Your Majesty, what's become of you? Where is the noble knight, the man who took me in as an orphan and raised me as his own? The strong, just king I once knew. Is a crystal worth all this? Robbing a peaceful people of what's theirs by right. What need could be so great? King's orders or no, there's no forgiving what we've done.
Cecil? Won't you tell me what happened? First you're sent off to Mysidia, and now to hunt some beast again so soon? Did something happen in Mysidia?
No, it's nothing.
Then why won't you look at me?
In Mysidia, we stole a crystal from people who had done no wrong. I've worn this darkened armor for so long now. There's no mote of light left in me. Not even in my heart.
You're a good man, Cecil.
I'm a coward. A coward who cannot even defy orders he knows he ought not follow.
Cecil of the Red Wings is many things, but he is no coward. Not the Cecil who I love. The king is sending you to Mist to slay the Eidolon, isn't he? If anything were to happen to you, I couldn't...
Kane will be with me. I'll be fine. It's late. You should get some rest.
Be careful.
Thank you, Rosa. But I know what I've become.
Shall we then, Cecil?
I'll be counting on you, my friend.
Then you've nothing to fear.
No, I don't, sorry. Trying to see if there's maybe a way I can push a button to maybe speed it up a little, but there's not, so. Not gonna be skipping any cutscenes, don't worry about that. Okay, so we're finally on the world map, and we get to talk about a few things while I run through this town and try to find a couple of things that might help us out. Found a potion for one, so that's nice. So there's a few, like, it's one of those older Final Fantasy games where, you know, you can find a few things just kind of laying around, and I'm mostly just gonna grab a couple of potions because we're still pretty low on gil. Yeah, I have like nothing for gil, so not gonna worry too much about that. But as you can probably tell, Cecil starts this game as very much the kind of standard, brooding, generic Dark Knight who really doesn't have a whole lot of personality, but please don't worry about that. He'll get over himself sooner than you would expect, so look forward to that. And the reason why I'm starting with Final Fantasy IV is, as I said on the title screen, I mentioned it very briefly, I consider Final Fantasy III not all that interesting of a game, and I would much rather actually spend that time... Oh, I forgot to change Kane's formation. But anyway, I would much rather spend that time covering the Final Fantasy games that I am more interested in. I may backtrack to 3 if, you know, viewers request it, but for the most part, I'm mostly just gonna go 4, 5. I might tag 6. I'm not sure how I'm gonna do that one yet. I might save 6 for a little bit later. I might not. I don't know. We'll see. And then I'm definitely gonna hit 7 and 8 though. I might again skip 9 because 6 and 9 are my personal favorites. So I might kind of save those for a little bit later in the series if I do end up keeping it going. And then I'm definitely going to hit 10. Pretty much anything that's on Steam, I'm probably going to hit up at some point or another. It's just a question of how many or what order we do them in, I'm sorry. But, so, one thing I did right there is I altered the party formation, and don't quote me on this, I don't remember because it's been a while since I played Final Fantasy III, but Final Fantasy IV, I believe, is the game that introduced the front row, back row thing, where if you're on the front row, basically you deal more damage with melee attacks and abilities, but you take more damage as well. But if you're on the back row, you deal less and take less. So the reason we put Kain, a physical character, on the back row is because jumps damage is not impacted by your row. So Dragoons in other Final Fantasy games kind of become this high damage, safe, back row armored character. It's a pretty interesting niche, and I think it's pretty cool. But it does slow down his damage a lot because he could be basic attacking through this right now, but I'm instead choosing to have him jump. So it's not like that tragic of a loss, especially since the early game is fairly straightforward. Cecil is taking an absolute beating though. But yeah, it ain't too bad. I'll probably go back and patch him up before we go for the Mist Caves. And I might actually wrap this episode up before the Mist Caves, and I'm gonna try to keep my episodes for this in 20 to 30 minutes, time slots. Just so they're not so much all at once, but it's still, like, decently viewable, I suppose is the word I'm looking for there. So I'm just doing a little bit of exploring right now, and I ended up just going in a big dumb circle, so ignore me. Let's see what our level ups are at. 144 for Cecil, so I'm just gonna run around the world map for a second and grab another level up, and then I'll patch up, and then once I depart on the world map, I'll probably just save and be done with this episode. Let's see if, because I know the floating eyes in the cinematic thing were not able to be one-shot by his attacks. Okay, so I do need him in darkness in order to one-shot those things. That's really good to know. I'm not gonna darkness him though, because his health is way too low for that. Oh, yeah, that's right. People get crit animations, that's cool. Cecil does his little sword swing, so good for him on that. The cool thing about Final Fantasy IV is that I consider it kind of the Final Fantasy that started a lot of what we know Final Fantasy today to kind of be like. It introduced kind of all the job archetypes. Like, it introduced the first traditional, like, the first modern, I guess I should say, Dark Knight, and the first modern, like, Dragoon, Summoner, like, all these kind of job and character archetypes that we know today, it kind of got their base here. Well, like, you could argue that they instead got their base in Final Fantasy II, because there were characters like, Leon and Rickard and stuff, but I don't argue that because I'm not very fond of 2, and I consider that kind of like a black horse or a black sheep for the series, but I might go back and play 2 another time, and maybe I'll learn to love it instead, so we'll see. Anyway, moving on with life. We are now going to save, and I am going to save over this slot, but don't worry, we'll be back. We'll be back to that point at some time. That's where my broadcast ended, so brief spoiler there. But yeah, that's it, so I'm gonna push the stop recording button, and then I'm just gonna push it again to continue recording. But let me know what you guys thought. If you could make any feedback or changes you'd like to see me make, or anything like that, make sure to hit me up. I'm not gonna do the whole, like, favorite, subscribe spiel, just because I'm playing this for mostly the entertainment of friends. So it really doesn't bother me too much one way or the other. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next episode.